Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LeBel, along with the general manager, the man that has run the scouting departments and the player personnel direction. He's to our right, Joey Clinkscales, and Brian LeBel, our NFL expert and college expert as well, and a co-host of several shows here on 100 Yards of Football. And this is the NFL Weekly Preview. We're going to look at week number 7 here in the National Football League. And guys, when we get started, one of the first things that we want to do is just go over the schedule and what's taken place in between last week and this week. We know that Buffalo and Baltimore each had a bye week. I think they both wanted it right about this time. Probably Baltimore a little bit more than Buffalo, coming off of that Monday night loss to Atlanta. The Bills would probably prefer, let's get back with a winning situation before we take that week off. But Baltimore certainly they've got so many things that they need to fix. Will 1 week be able to do it, Joey, for the Ravens?
No, quite honestly, unless they shipped in a new defense. Because despite their offensive woes, I think we all see a solution to that once the quarterback gets back. I'm not sure I see a ton of solutions on defense for Baltimore. So that will be interesting to see how they recover after the bye defensively.
Yeah, either Baltimore or Buffalo. Brian, any thoughts here on the week off here in the bye?
Well, I mean, for the Ravens, a little bit more so. I think the Bills were a little banged up. With Dalton Kincaid missed last week, I know that, and you could tell Josh Allen, they were missing him in the offense. But, a couple extra days to get Lamar healthy. I mean, they're going to ask a lot of him when he comes back because they're going to probably have to rip off 3 or 4 in a row just to get back in really just in contention for even the division. I don't even talk about, the conference or, hosting playoff games down the road. But Baltimore needed it the most, and, it's hopefully they're ready next week for Chicago.
Well, normally we're here after the Monday night game, but again, this week, for the second time in the last 3 weeks, there are 2 dual Monday night games. So the Seahawks are ahead 7-0 against the Houston Texans, and this game is still in the first quarter. There's about 2.5 minutes left, but we're going to get an early start. And Joey, Seahawks at 4-2, taking on the 2-3 Houston Texans. Seahawks really badly need this, and the city of Seattle is just going through a lot right now. The Mariners, what are they in about the 8th or 9th inning here in their Game 7 against Toronto? You got a Monday night game. You got a Seahawks team that's doing well at 4-2, like I say, and if they go 5-2 and win this game, they'll be in the lead there and continue that pace that the Rams and the 49ers have there in the West. Big game in Seattle.
Well, anybody that's ever been to Seattle know how crazy it is. The stadiums are right next to each other. They share parking. So I'm sure that area right now is just out of control. So it's exciting time in Seattle. But for the football team, defensively, they're a really good team with Leonard Williams and some of those guys. They're a really good football team, and Sam Darnold has played the best football of his career right now. So I'm sure it's pretty exciting. The 12th man, as they call it in Seattle, is I'm sure very excited. So I'm sure by the time this game ends, I expect Seattle to win.
Yeah, a lot going on in Seattle, Brian, and Sam Darnold, as Joey mentions. It's hard to figure that he could play better than leading a 2-loss team last year in Minnesota and tying with the Detroit Lions for first place and really struggling to get that home game in the playoffs because of the standings and all that kind of stuff. Had a rough go at it there in the playoff game, but I think he's kind of smoothed his persona down, and I know what I can do. Run a few plays that are in my wheelhouse, and I'll be able to do the same thing for any organization. But having a great defense, like Joey just said a moment ago, really helps.
Yeah, they don't really have a great running game right now. Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker really have not gotten rolling yet, right? Everyone's trying to copy what the Lions are doing with the 2-headed monster. And, last year, the year before, we kind of look at what Seattle were doing, like, hey, they're kind of building a really good run game. And the idea is you get a young quarterback or really any quarterback, you can plug him in. If you can run the football, play action, the old adage and how it is. But he's doing it without a consistent run game right now. He's actually doing really, really well. Jackson Smith-Njigba has been spectacular. He's making his case for maybe being the best receiver in the NFL right now. I mean, I don't know if he's up there, but he's definitely in the conversation. Cooper Kupp still, he's giving them good reps out of the slot there. AJ Barner, who's been a really good surprise at tight end for them. The defense is stout. They're for real. If you watch them in any situation, they're great in short yardage. They're great at getting after the quarterback. They're great in pass coverage. There's just, I'll just say that they can get their run game going. I mean, they might be the most complete team in football.
Yeah, maybe not the Legion of Boom like what they were about 10, 15 years ago, but certainly very respectable in the league and very difficult to score on. Let's look at the other Monday night game that just finished up. Tampa Bay goes into Detroit. And Joey, I'll be candid with you. I was very surprised at how well Detroit's the entire defense. Kelvin Shepard did a great job, in my opinion, of putting just enough pressure on Baker Mayfield with 4, with 5, sometimes with 6, just bringing different combinations. Baker barely got set before he had to get rid of the ball on most of his throws. It may not look as an exciting game as it was. 24-9 is the final, but for the last 7 or 8 minutes, Tampa had the ball for at least 7 of those and couldn't get the ball into the end zone. Good job, Lions. They go to 5-2 right now. Give me your thoughts and perspective here on Detroit, because I know that they're hurting. They've got a lot of guys that are injured. So if I'm an employee at a Foot Locker or at a tire store, maybe a construction site, I might be getting a call if I've ever had any experience in the National Football League. It's thin pickings right now. They're putting guys just basically from the street back into the lineup and giving them a uniform.
It's amazing what happens when you have a team that follows the lead of the head coach and has a serious emotional investment in what happens on the field. Now, we're going to talk about a team later that lacks both of those things. But for now, we're going to talk about Detroit, because guess what? It doesn't matter who's on the field. It doesn't matter if they have 5 guys in the secondary that's on IR. It doesn't matter if they have 1 guy suspended. Guess what? They come out and play. And they play like nobody's missing. They don't make excuses. And they had a great defensive game plan. I mean, they rushed 5, they rushed 6, they rushed 3. They kept Baker off guard with how many guys they were rushing and who was coming from which side. Now, the flip side of that, David Montgomery showed why that two-headed monster is a formidable force. They're because legitimate. He had well over 200 yards in total offense, well over 150 or 60 yards rushing and then receiving. I mean, and then Montgomery came in and he played well. So, they had a serious game plan for tonight, and that home crowd in Detroit was amazing.
Joey, before I go to Brian, give me one more perspective. You mentioned something that's very curious in my eyes, how a team will take on the character of the head coach, whether they know they're doing it or not. You mentioned the no excuses aspect of it. How valuable is that in a building to know that whether it be the head coach, the general manager, the owner of the team, they all are congruent in having equal influence in the building. But in terms of what takes place on the field, yes, it's the head coach exclusively. What Dan Campbell has been able to do in the second year in a row. Last year, they were doing the exact same thing. They had a defense that, with Aiden Hutchinson being the first in, training camp or week 2 or 3 that he gets hurt, of having to plug and play, and we're just going to be as tough as we possibly can. I can't put a value on that in terms of the importance and what it means to an organization to be able to rely on that. This man is a difference maker, isn't he?
It's invaluable. The things that Dan Campbell has been through as a player, that he's seen, the people he's been an assistant under, and bringing all that knowledge and experience to the head coaching position has been invaluable. He knows how he wanted to build his team. That's why you have to have a leader as a head coach. You can't have just a guy who's an offense coordinator or just a defensive coordinator. You have to have a leader. And sometimes the hot name, we're gonna get into this later in the year when these names pop up of guys who will be first-time head coaches. And that's great. Everybody's not going to be a Sean McVay or a Shanahan or a Tomlin as a first-time head coach. So there are going to be tons of growing pains. You better get somebody who first and foremost can be a leader of men and who can get the team to follow him, because guess what? Adversity is going to happen. Okay. These new coaches haven't been through adversity as a head coach. These other guys probably have.
And as Troy and Joe said, maybe in the third quarter, might have been the fourth, Dan was a backup tight end to Jason Witten with the Cowboys. He didn't play a whole heck of a lot, but he's the type of guy that you'd want to have on your side in a bar fight, isn't he? But he doesn't have to be the mean, angry guy, and he can't be in that type of – he has to be logical. He has to be smart. He has to be able to negotiate. He has to be able to get the guy's attention and not just yelling all the time. I think he's just a tough dude, and everybody respects what he can do. And what he's able to do without having to be anything different than what he is you get what you see. In my opinion.
Times, you're absolutely correct. How many times have in most sports, especially football and basketball, has the best guy, the all-pro, the all-star, ever been a really good head coach?
I think of Magic Johnson, Wayne Gretzky was given the opportunity, Pete Rose. They all kind of failed. The game itself was easy for them.
Yes.
They played at a different level. They just said, go do it. And nobody can, because they're not as good as those guys were. It's the guy that brings his lunchbox every day that says, this is how hard it is. And you can still have a superstar. It's not hard for him, but everybody else has to be on page with what the message is, right?
Without question.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Brian, what impresses you most with not only Detroit, but their consistency? They're not going to win every game, but they're going to win 3 out of 4. And in the NFL, that's going to get you deep in the playoffs.
I think a lot of it is just coaching obviously is a huge part of it, but they'll shuffle names in and out, right? Because they've had the hot coordinators, right? The last couple of years, they've had coaches go in and out because teams have kind of come and they've plucked them and said, hey, we want you to come, coach for us. We want you to come here. Like, they lost both their coordinators last year. It looks like they haven't missed a beat. I think a lot of that it's culture too. It's not just the coach, but it's the ownership buying in, it's the general manager buying in, and the players, obviously, more important than anything else, have to buy into what you're doing. Because I remember a couple of years ago, Jared Goff's in tears because they almost went winless, right? They win a huge game at the end of the year, and it's just, I think at that point, you can kind of see it said, hey, we could do this, and they flipped the switch, they added talent, but they beat you in high scoring affairs, they'll beat you in dogfights like tonight, they'll run the ball and control the line of scrimmage. Jared Goff will throw it all over the yard. They can play any different way that, they seem fit or they choose to attack you. And it's just, it's pretty special to see. And, for a team that was so bad for so many years, it's good for the city of Detroit. For Tampa tonight, obviously it was just kind of rough. Mike Evans gets hurt. I think a collarbone issue. I think he broke it. So that's unfortunate. I will say this. He didn't have any sacks tonight, but Aiden Hutchinson just dominated that game. He was a force to be reckoned with. The defensive line was great, and Detroit's looking like they might be the best team in the NFC again.
You bring up an interesting point. We've talked about how good Detroit is. I appreciate that, want to respect that. But Tampa's not that far behind on a road situation, and they've got some injuries too, especially at wide receiver. They're thin. Yeah. And you mentioned Mike Evans going down early. I'm not too disappointed. I'm sorry I lost, and if someone bets $100 on the game and they lose, I feel sorry for you. But in terms of where that team is going to be, that was a playoff atmosphere tonight. And I think Tampa, this early in the season, can draw from that and go, okay, wait till next time. And hopefully you don't have to come to our building and play us, because we're going to do some damage to you. Brian, your thoughts here on Tampa?
They're the top team in the South right now. I think coming into this game, the winner was sort of looked at as a team that was going to be favorited for home field throughout the playoffs. I think Tampa's still there. It's just they'll have to regroup. Bucky Irving's not healthy. Chris Godwin's not healthy. Mike Evans he played, but he gets hurt again, halfway through the second quarter. It's just one of those things where if he makes that catch and he doesn't get injured, the landscape of the game might change, right? Because even if they get 3 points on that drive, it was just they're not a bad football team, but it is a little concerning because a theme on this show has been, hey, you got to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And Detroit they dominated it tonight. It wasn't even particularly close.
Well, Rachaad White had 10 carries for 38 yards. They had 41 as a team. So obviously not a whole lot going on the ground. But again, you mentioned some of the injuries, and then when you're playing from behind, you're not going to run all that much. Joey, your thoughts here on Tampa, who, by the way, both teams are at 5-2 at this point in the season. That's not a bad place to start.
No, I like Tampa. I don't know if I would call them the favorite. We mentioned Seattle. We mentioned the team we haven't mentioned is the Rams. I still like the Rams a lot. So it'll be interesting how the NFC shakes out from that standpoint. Obviously, Detroit will definitely be a team to be reckoned with, especially if they can get healthy late in the year. Philly showed life again yesterday. Sometimes love hurts, but sometimes love feels great. And yesterday it felt great. So, you have to, again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So we'll see how it goes later in the season.
Well, you've got Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, all with at least 4 wins in the North. Tampa and Carolina, we'll talk about them in a little bit. San Francisco, the Rams, Seattle, all have at least 4 wins. You mentioned Philadelphia, so a lot of really good teams in the NFC that we'll get a chance to talk about. But first, why don't we go to yesterday's game? Or at least let's go back to the Thursday night game. Sometimes he looks like he's incredible, like he's been drinking from the fountain of youth, and other time he looks like he's a 41-year-old football player that is a little bit too slow. What were your thoughts here? Could be Aaron Rodgers, but it's also
could be either one. I was going to say,
that's the oldest starting quarterback combination, I think, since George Blanda got together with Y.A. Tittle way back in some 1970s game. Joey, we'll start with you. Give me your thoughts here on this game where I think Cincinnati really is very happy with at least the early returns on the trade to get Flacco and kind of do something with their quarterback situation the way that it is.
Hey, the Icy Hot Bowl was was pay for TV. It really was. I mean, it was a great game. Both of those quarterbacks showed you what they could do, even at the advanced age that they're playing at right now. And guess what? Flacco has 2 really, really, really talented receivers in Chase and in T. Higgins. Guess what? If they can keep him upright, and guess what? He was on that third step. He was getting rid of the ball every time. I mean, he wasn't holding on to the ball. He was getting rid of the ball. And guess what? When they were able to do that, guess what else they found? They found a run game.
Yep.
They were able to run the ball, and I was disappointed. Obviously, I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a little biased, but I was really disappointed in the Steelers defense. However, when you can throw the ball like they were able to throw the ball, then you know what, play action is going to work. You're going to be able to run the ball. And on the flip side, Rodgers did a lot of good things. I think Pittsburgh personally needs to find another receiver so they aren't always depending on DK Metcalf. Although the tight ends were involved this week, which was good, and they still have to be able to run the ball better. Cincinnati ran the ball much better than the Steelers ran the ball in this game. And I think ultimately that was the deciding factor. But it was a great game to watch. I mean, the 2 oldest quarterbacks in the league came out. And right now, again, both of those guys have skins on the wall. They've won football games. They've won a lot of big games. They played in a lot of big games. And guess what? It looked really – it was must-see TV the other night on Thursday night.
Well, and it's a close game too, right? It's a 2-point game. Pittsburgh had 14 points in the fourth quarter. Cincinnati had 13. Rodgers throws for 249 yards, Brian. He has 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but you got to give the older of the two. You got to give Flacco a little credit. He was 31 of 47, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked twice for 14 yards, but still getting the ball out early. And he's only been in the building for 10 days, maybe 11? So he still doesn't know everything that's going on. Give him credit.
Yeah, like what Joey said too, the fact that you have to respect the pass game now, right? You can't just put all these guys in the box, because if you do, we're going to just throw it over the top to Chase or to Higgins or Noah Fant there too. He's been really good at tight end for them, but Chase Brown had over 100 yards rushing, and the offensive line looked maybe not better, but it looked like they were, they relieved some pressure, right? There was a burden that was kind of off of them. Like, hey, there's fewer guys in the box and we can do more on offense, and our quarterback's not running for his life now. And it looked really good for Cincinnati. I think that was what they had in mind when they traded for Flacco. Just, we have the talent on offense. We just have to be able to give our guys a chance. And unfortunately, Jake Browning wasn't doing that. But, if you're Pittsburgh, I think you can get the defensive stuff figured out. It's a wacky game. Thursday nights usually are, especially within the division. You're playing against a team that knows you very, very well. Joe Flacco might know Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers, better than anybody else in the world as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, you get the defense figured out. The offense looked really good. Aaron Rodgers completed passes to 8 different guys. All 3 tight ends caught a touchdown. The running game was good. Jaylen Warren had a fantastic game. I think it was his first game back from injury. He missed a couple weeks. But if you're Pittsburgh, I wouldn't hang your head too much. This is a game you'd really like to have just because – with Baltimore being on a bye and it being a division game, you could really separate yourself in the AFC and within the division. But I'm going to give more credit to Cincinnati than I am going to bash the Steelers for this game.
Steelers are 4-2 after the loss, and the Bengals rise to 3-4. So a little bit of tightening there in the division, as you said. Brian, what was that quote that you said about Mike Tomlin telling the defense, don't hurt the court? Which quarterback?
Last year when they played the Colts, and Anthony Richardson was in a quarterback, he told him, he said, hey, listen, don't injure this kid. We do not want Flacco to play, and let's keep Anthony Richardson in the game. And I'm telling you, it's Joe Flacco might be Mike Tomlin's. I don't know if anybody's going to celebrate more when Joe Flacco actually retires than Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
he's going to send him some flowers. He's going to send him some wine. He's going to be like, oh, man, we're really going to miss you. You have a great retirement, buddy. Yeah, Joe Flacco seems to have his number.
Yeah, get out of here. You couldn't have left 4 or 5 years ago and
buddy, come on, man.
Me with all of those sleepless nights I had.
Yeah, he was unhappy with the trade within the division. He's looking at Cleveland like, what are you guys doing? No, don't trade him to the Bengals. What are we doing here?
Yeah, ridiculous. All right, well, let's go across the pond. Jaguars seem to love playing overseas, Joey. Every year they play at least 1 and sometimes 2 games overseas. Didn't help them this time. Rams just pretty much dominated. It was 21-0 at halftime, and it ends up being 35-7. Rams go to 5-2. Trevor Lawrence threw for almost 300 yards, 296. He had a touchdown, but all for naught. They just don't have anything offensively, do they?
No, they don't. Their Super Bowl was versus Kansas City at home, and right now they're playing. I don't know how they're playing. Be quite honestly, I can't figure them out. Defensively, they're okay. Offensively, they're up and down, mostly down. They threw for a lot of yards late because they were behind. They were behind, so they had to throw the ball. Their ownership is from London. That's why they have a lot of London games.
Sure.
Their owners from there. So all that being said, the Rams did what the Rams do. I mean, the top receiver was out. Guess what? They throw it to the other receiver. He catches 3 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns and had 4 or 5 catches for a total of like 35 yards. But he had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I mean, so that he averaged like 4 yards a catch or something. He had 8 catches. I think he averaged like 4 yards a catch. But guess what? He had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
and Stafford threw for 5 touchdowns, I believe. So they find ways to win, and Stafford is, he still, despite all the preseason injuries, he still has a lot in the tank. And defensively, they are really good in their front 4. They can rush the passer.
Yeah, they are impressive in many different ways. Even when they're on cruise control, Brian, it didn't seem like they had to do a whole heck of a lot. They did, defensively especially. Very impressive against the Jaguars. Made it very frustrating for Jacksonville just to get a first down. They struggled. They didn't score until late in the ball game. So 35-7 again, Brian. Your thoughts here on this one?
Well, if you look at the Rams, I mean, it's just, every time they got in the red zone, they scored a touchdown. They're 4 for 4 in the red zone. Jacksonville just, I want to say they had 8 or 9 drops in this game, which you can't, it's really hard to move the ball. It's really hard to be effective. And especially when Trevor Lawrence is dropping back to throw it almost 50 times. That's not ideal. That's not what you want to do. Give a lot of credit to, Stafford and Devontae Adams and their defense, and just the game plan, everything they were able to do was just, they executed it perfectly. It was kind of weird because they traveled the day before. I think they were the first team to travel the day before, as opposed to, get acclimated to the time change and whatever else, because they were practicing in Baltimore all week. But it worked out. I think they were, I in the back of their heads, like, hey, we're way better than these guys. We should beat up on these guys. So let's try to stay as in routine, as comfortable as we can. And it worked. And, if you're Jacksonville right now, you're 4-3, but they're 2 games behind Indianapolis in that division right now. And I don't know if the Colts lose 2 more games the rest of the season the way they're playing. So that seems almost insurmountable. But
Well, for good news for Jacksonville, excuse me for interrupting. Travis Hunter gets his first touchdown.
He looked good.
For 100 and a little over 100 yards. Is that a non-story? Because I mean, here's this highly touted rookie, and he was a superstar at Colorado, and now he's just kind of getting his feet wet and learning what the NFL life is like. Is that a story for you or not?
Well, Brian Thomas Jr. gets hurt, so if he's out, Travis Hunter's going to have to play. He's probably going to have to play, way fewer snaps on the defensive side of the ball too. He's going to be asked to do a lot on offense, and this might be kind of where Jacksonville kind of figures out, say, hey, do we really want him on defense? Because if he could be a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 1 for us, we're going to probably try to play him where he helps us win more so anywhere else. They're pretty good on defense as is. He can play. He's very good at the receiver position. He was phenomenal. His numbers at Colorado, speak for themselves. But depending on how severe, because I think Brian Thomas Jr. had an ankle injury coming in. I think he knocked his shoulder out of place, something. So we'll see. But this might become more of a trend to have 7, 8, 9 catches or at least targets going forward for him.
Yeah. Joey, before we go, the injuries there with Jacksonville, is that going to be a real issue for them, especially trying to catch the Colts, as Brian had mentioned just a moment ago?
I think the injuries, again, with everybody, they pile up. It's a violent game. But guess what? Between Detroit and San Francisco, injuries aren't an excuse. At some point in time, they catch up with you. But guess what? Next man up. Nobody. The games will continue. Nobody's going to feel sorry, so they better find a way to win.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You're on the schedule, and it's either 1:00 or 4:30 on Sundays. In this case, it's a 1:00 game that we're going to look at next. Guys, I'm starting to think that the Bears might be worthy of talking about. Nothing more. But they're starting to win again, and they're 4-2. Congratulations, Chicago Bears. And now they beat the Saints, and the Saints are 1-6. The Saints scored in the second, third quarter. Those are the only points of the ball game. They got 14 total, so they had one score in each of theirs. But the Bears had a 20-7 lead at halftime. They held on. They're doing just what it takes to win. Joey, I'll start with you. What impresses you about Chicago? For me, it's that they're starting to win close games that they used to lose. Games that they would lose by 2 touchdowns, it's close. They're just improving, and they're starting to believe in themselves. What about you?
They're finding ways to win. Offensively, Caleb Williams is doing enough good things to carry the team to victory, which he wasn't doing last year. The offensive line is playing a lot better. Defensively, they're coming up with some stops. So as a unit, the head coach came in with a plan. Okay, this is how we're going to play, and this is how we're going to win football games. And guess what? They're sticking to the script. So that's encouraging that you have a head coach that has a plan coming in, and you're able to stick with the script. On the other side of the ball, if I'm thinking about New Orleans, they're playing hard. Believe it or not, for a 1-6 football team, they're actually playing pretty hard. The quarterback, Spencer Rattler, hasn't played lights out, but he hasn't played super bad. Of all the 1-6 teams and the 1-0-7 team, New Orleans is playing the best football out of all those bad teams. You know what I mean? So from that standpoint, it's encouraging. They're undermanned in a lot of positions. They aren't getting much out of Kamara in the run game. The offensive line is not playing great. Kamara probably should be traded. I don't think he wants to be traded because I think he likes New Orleans and he has family there. But New Orleans is not a awful team. They just can't put everything together because they aren't talented enough to do that at this point.
Well, let me ask you from a different angle. They're no good, but they don't know that they aren't any good, and they're playing hard. Spencer had 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They only rushed for 44 yards. There's a lot of stuff that most people would quit and go, forget it. We're not going to play. I think they're fighting through it. They're taking on a young coach that knows that he's still got another year or two before he has to turn it around. He's going to want to do it before then, but They're going to give you everything, and they got that. That's the thing about New Orleans that I'm getting right now.
Young teams fight through it.
You should be able to beat them, but if you don't, that's your own fault because they're not going to give it to you.
Correct.
All right.
Young teams know how to fight through that. Veteran teams that are in that position, like a Miami, they lack the emotional investment, and they just kind of start. You can see them shutting down.
Yeah.
Where New Orleans won't shut down to the end of the year. They'll fight all the way through.
I completely agree. There's a shutdown versus we don't know any better. We're going to fight. Brian, what impresses you most about Chicago?
They're running the ball. Since the bye, they've had over 130 yards on the ground both games. So
40 carries yesterday, 222 yards. They had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Yes.
Yeah.
If you can rush for 200 yards in the NFL, wow.
DeAndre Swift's looking pretty good. He's looking pretty formidable. They don't have that 1-2 punch, right? Like Ben Johnson was accustomed to in Detroit, but the offensive line's looking a lot better than it did week 1, week 2. Caleb Williams is playing. Listen, he doesn't have to play perfect. They got a plethora of weapons between Rome Odunze, between DJ Moore, Luther Burden's a kid they brought in who I think is a tremendously talented receiver. But the defense is playing well enough to win. That game against the Commanders last week really kind of changed my perspective on this team because they were able to bully Washington for the whole fourth quarter. They bullied them. And they ran the ball. They controlled the tempo. It was a bad weather game. They were able to kind of really just they looked very much like the Lions, right? Very Detroit-ish, I want to say. And I think that's what Ben Johnson was trying to do. That's what Chicago was trying to do when they brought him in. So, you tip your cap to them. They're still a very young team also. They're going to have some cap space. They're going to have the ability to grow. But this is a team right now that very sneakily could make the playoffs this year, depending on what they do against Green Bay and Minnesota and Detroit down the stretch.
Brian, you bring up a very interesting point. Do you think the defense plays harder knowing that they've got a chance to win every ball game because the offense isn't inept like they were last year? You give us a shot, we'll play hard, and we'll only give up 15 or 10 or 12, or in this case, they give up 14 points against the Saints. They play a little bit harder. In your opinion, is that a part of the transition that has to take place?
I think so.
Yeah,
especially because their schedule down the stretch gets pretty rough, right? They got the Ravens next coming off a bye. They're a desperate football team, right? We're going to find out a lot about this defense, about how they play against Lamar Jackson, who hasn't suited up in a month. We're gonna find out how good this team is. I think the offense too, because the Ravens, listen, we beat up on them on the show because it's just been very, very bad on the defense side of the football. I think down the stretch, like I said, they got a very tough schedule. Every game in the division for them is a dogfight, and then they got to play San Francisco. They got a lot of tough games down the stretch, but they started about as good as you probably would have had them penciled in for. So give a lot of credit to the Bears, give a lot of credit to Ben Johnson. They're looking pretty formidable in the NFC.
Before we go to the next game, same question to you, Joey. I'm expecting a different answer because not that it's a different answer. It'll be unique for your perspective. The defense plays, I think, a little bit harder when they know that the offense is going to give us a chance to win. Are we starting to see this in a different way in Chicago?
I think defenses play better when offenses don't go 3 and out. Okay, so offensively, they've done a better job of keeping drives alive, moving the ball down the field, and you don't have to score every time. But, last year they had a propensity of 3 and out, turnover. And they're cutting down all that now. So now the defense is getting more rest and they're able to play harder. So to answer your question, yes, but they're able to get more rest when they're on the sideline because the offense are making longer drives.
Okay. Well, I also know that you play harder if you got a chance to win, and the Bears have turned some things around in their favor in a way that I think you'll start talking about. The Bears are in the top 10 in this category defensively, and we hadn't seen it for years. Well, yeah, they're playing harder. That's just my opinion. I think they do that.
Dennis Allen is a really good defensive coach. He really is. So you expect them the more they play together to get better.
Great DC, maybe not a great head coach, but he's a great DC.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the other side of where a team could be. Both teams enter this one with only one win, and the Browns get away with a 31-6 at home victory against the Dolphins. Cleveland did just about everything right. Dylan Gabriel, his third start, 116 yards, no touchdowns, but everything worked for them offensively on the run. Or in the run game, and the Dolphins are just falling apart. Joey, we'll start with you because I know you've got some comments here about the Dolphins.
Well, I go back to, they've already packed it in for the most part. I mean, we talked about the head coach last week being the dead man walking, and that's probably true. And I hate to say that, but that's probably true. But watching them play, they lacked a lot of emotional investment. And what I mean by that, it's like they're in this relationship. I'm going to put it in a relationship. They're in this relationship with this person that you don't know whether they really love it or whether it's a transactional relationship. And guess what? Miami is playing like it's transactional because guess what? They want to – those guys are planning to get paid. They're already planning on vacations. They have no emotions. They really have tuned out the quarterback who threw everybody under the bus, and then he comes back and apologized this week. But at this point, he's already lost the team. He's already lost the program. He's probably lost the head coach, and the head coach is now just trying to keep everything together because he knows at any moment, probably during the bye, if not later, yes, it's bye-bye. So, they're in – it's a complete dumpster fire in Miami right now. I don't know how they turn it around. I don't think they can turn it around because now even next year, let's just say next year, they have a new head coach. They're probably – whoever comes in there is probably going to try to move on from the quarterback. And I know he's being paid north of $50 million a year, but he's not a $50 million player because guess what? He's shown you that he can't elevate the team. He can't make everybody else around him better. So why pay this guy that kind of money when he can't make everybody else better?
Can they afford to just cut ties? Who can afford Tua and would want him? You're hitting the nail on the head. This is a dumpster fire where everything in that building could explode. The college and NFL last week, the trend now is just fire your guy today. Get rid of him. Even if you win. Billy Napier, Franklin, Jay Norville at Colorado State got fired.
And more are coming, trust me.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's amazing. But the long-term ramifications, and what if you're with a GM, and you know this as a GM, that he might be gone. The owner goes, no, I'm only teasing. I want you gone and the head coach gone, and I want 3 other people. I'm going to just do a search and just explode everything and give me a match because the gasoline's right over here. Let's just blow this whole thing up. I hope it doesn't turn out like that for Miami, but it could with the way that their cap is designed and some of the issues that they're really, really dealing with right now. It's a tough situation. One final comment on what I said, Joey, before I go to Brian.
Well, I would be surprised if it's not a complete overhaul. I'll put it that way.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So I believe it's going to be a complete overhaul. That being said, at some point you have to admit that you were wrong and move on. And I think that's what they're going to do with Tua. I would be surprised if in this year's draft they didn't draft a quarterback. I mean, I've looked at some college guys and 2 or 3 of the guys I really like, and if they could get one of those guys, hey, I would draft a guy, and you know what? If I can get something if I can get a bag of Doritos and some Skittles for Tua, I would do it. Okay, and we move on because guess what? I didn't pay Tua. The team did. I'm walking in the door new. I didn't pay Tua, so he's not I'm not going to be stuck with that problem. That's going to be somebody else's problem, and he's already shown you that he can't lead this football team. He can't bring a young team together because guess what? You're going to have to start over because you have so many holes. You have holes on defense. Your defense can't stop anybody. Offensive line is not great. You have a running back. You're probably going to have to cut the receiver that got hurt, Tariq Hill, because of his salary, and you don't know if he's going to come back the same. So you have a multitude of problems that you have to address, and you don't want to have to do that with the you want to try to win a few games while you're doing that. They're probably not going to be a playoff team next year. So you want to still be able to be competitive. And I'm not sure how competitive you're going to be with a quarterback that nobody respects.
Brian, is Taylor Heineke or Stetson Bennett available to go to Miami after all the moves that we're going to make? Somebody's going to get the job there. And my goodness, you got to do something. You got to put quarterback behind center somewhere.
Well, the problem is they owe Tua $53 million guaranteed next year. They're going to have about $40 million in dead cap money. So that doesn't leave you with much option. Now, the way they could kind of swing it is you get very busy at the trade deadline, but that's going to involve trading probably Devon Achane, probably Jalen Waddle. You're probably going to move on from some talented guys and then have to go back into the draft to try to get the same talented guys, which, that's given the history of this team. I don't know if that's exactly a winning formula, but, Tyreek Hill's gone too. I don't even know if he'd be healthy enough to play next year anyways, but this is a team that you're looking, because I think the reason why the fan base, a lot of people are kind of so down on the team right now, is you're looking ahead not just this year, not just next year, but it might be 2, 3, 4 years before you're competitive again. And, you're looking at how good the Bills are, the Patriots, and it's just there's not a lot to be optimistic about in Miami. Now, it can be done, right? We saw the Broncos do it with Sean Payton, where they trade Russell Wilson. They didn't have any picks. They didn't have any money, and they still found a way to do it. But it's a pretty steep uphill climb for these guys down in Miami.
It's a lot easier to build a team defensively, to be quite honest, than it is offensively. So while you're trying to get an offense together that can compete, you can always get a defense together that can stop people because for 2 or 3 years, that's what the Jets were. Yeah. Offensively, they were stinking. Defensively, they were pretty good. And now it's all falling apart. But that's the way they were built the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, one thing that the Miami Dolphin fans can say is at least we're not the New York Jets. We're one game better than those guys.
We're a game better than them, yes.
But they're not the New England Patriots. Talk about a turnaround round. 5-2, ladies and gentlemen. The New England Patriots are 5-2. Are you kidding me? Now, granted, they haven't beaten Kansas City on a regular basis, or they're not playing against the Eagles every week. But my goodness, they took care of the Titans. Another game that was kind of a blowout. 31-13 is the final on this one. Brian, I'll start with you. It was 20-13. I'm sorry, 17-13 at the half, but 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, and the defense didn't give up anything. From the second quarter on, Patriots defense only gave up 3 points. I know Tennessee's having some struggles right now. Cam threw for 255 yards. He had a touchdown, but they're 5-2. No Tom Brady, no Bill Belichick in the house, but you got to be somewhat impressed with what Mike Vrabel's been able to do to turn it around there in New England.
Yeah, good for them, right? They had to go through a lot of turmoil. They had to go through a lot of struggling before they got good again, right? The Patriots did, but the defense is good. I know Cam Ward kind of spotted him a touchdown there in the third quarter. He just kind of forgot to hang on to the football. He just kind of drops it and spots the Pat 7 there. But it's one of those things. Their schedule is very easy down the stretch too. Drake May's playing very, very good football. They're getting everybody involved. Diggs in the game against Buffalo, his revenge game, he had to be. Ramondre Stevenson's running the ball well. Hunter Henry's involved in the offense. They're top to bottom, man. Everybody does their job. We talk about guys and teams embracing the personalities of their head coach. They've really done that with Vrabel. He's done a tremendous job. This was kind of a revenge game for him, right? Going back to Tennessee when they told him he wasn't good enough. Yeah. But they look like a very complete football team. And Drake May is playing. I'm seeing a lot of flashes of some really, really good stuff. He's making plays with his legs. He's not taking a lot of hits either. He's getting out of bounds. He's sliding. He's smart enough to say, hey, I want to prolong my health and stay on the field as much as possible. He did take a hit on yesterday. So he ended up being okay. But the Patriots look really, really good. And then you got the Titans on the other side who are kind of just spiraling and going the opposite direction.
Give me a real quick scenario. Last year at this time, do you remember what people were chanting about Drake May? It was a bust, right? Then nobody wanted anything to do with him. You got to give some guys a little bit of time to mature. You got to let them make a mistake or learn how to do things and then go, oh, I should do it. And sometimes that takes 5 games. Sometimes it takes a whole season. But 222 yards, he had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's protecting the ball. He's throwing it out of bounds. He's sliding early. Yes, he's taking some hits, but I think he's a much better NFL quarterback right now than he was obviously a year ago. And not everybody can say that.
Right. Without question. And I'm gonna make a bad comparison here, but I'm gonna make it anyway. Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions as a rookie.
Yeah.
28.
He's
And I'm
waiting for
sure
someone to break that record, right? He's still saying, "I want someone to break that record for me."
right. And I'm sure the people in Indianapolis had similar feelings about him.
Yeah.
But guess what? You have to be patient with these guys sometimes, and they all don't come in and light it up in the beginning. But Drake May is playing well. He really is, and that team is another team who's taking the personality of their head coach. They're fiery, they're tough, they're competitive. They play to the whistle, and they play all 60 minutes of the game. So you have to like what you see in the New England Patriots right now.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have 222 yards, but they had 174 on the ground. You got to be somewhat impressed with that. And a team that is going in the opposite direction, at least in my opinion, from what the New England Patriots are, inverse numbers are the Raiders, 2-5. Pete Carroll, what's going on there, Brian? Is Pete lost the team? 31-0 was the final there in Kansas City. The Chiefs have won 4 in a row after that dismal start. Maybe it's a Super Bowl hangover, like what they attributed to Atlanta back when they lose the Super Bowl. But I'll tell you what, Chiefs are playing very well right now, and the Raiders on the wrong end of that loss. Again, 31-0 is the final. 2-5 for for Las Vegas, excuse me, and Kansas City goes to 4-3.
Yeah, it's just when you throw for 75 yards as a team, it's not going to be a good day for you. Brock Bowers was out, Jacoby Myers was out. It was kind of a buzzsaw, you know what I mean? Everything just went wrong for the Raiders, and you're playing Kansas City, who they get Rashee Rice back, and they're looking very formidable. The defense, especially, has looked very, very good. Spagnola's done it. He's been doing it for years with them, but Chris Jones has been good. Karlaftis has been great. Trent McDuffie's been really, really good for them. So, if you're the Raiders right now, arguably your two best players on offense aren't on the field, which it's very, very difficult to overcome that. Gene T, who you go and you draft really, really high because you love him. He's a great prospect, but you got to have a good offensive line to run the football. Geno Smith it's tough sledding for him right now. I feel kind of bad for him, but the Raiders are they're in a tough spot. I don't see it getting much better. They'll get healthier. They got the bye coming up, and then they should have some guys back 2 weeks from now. But as it stands, the Raiders are just it's ugly football to watch.
And an ugly result too. Obviously, 31-point disappointment for the Raiders, but Kansas City slowly but surely kind of getting their pace back, and they want to get back in the race, don't they?
Absolutely. Hey, it's an old saying: you got to knock the king out. You can't win by decision. And guess what? Nobody knocked Kansas City out, and now that they're getting healthy, they're coming back. They're playing great on offense, and in turn, they're playing better on defense. So Kansas City is getting back to the Kansas City of old.
Yeah.
They're going to be a tough out. And I think the Raiders, they lost their best defensive lineman in the game. So I don't know how long he's going to be out.
Yeah.
They have a tough way to go. I don't think they ever saw Geno as a long-term solution. They really don't have a ton of talent at wide receiver. They got a running back that's will be good. An offensive line that still needs some retooling. They don't have a great defensive line that need help in the secondary. So they're in a place team-wise where they need a lot of help in a lot of different positions. And when they play an explosive team like a Chiefs or someone else, if they can't get to the passer, it's going to be a long day. But guess what? They ran 30 plays, and Kansas City had 30 first downs.
My gosh. Wow. Well, Raiders will take that tape and pretty much just burn it. They're not going to watch it. It's not going to happen. Next game that we're going to look at, folks, this is a tough loss here for the Vikings at home. They go to 3-3. Eagles were just smooth, steady. Everything they did was good enough to get by. They only rushed for 45 yards, but Jalen Hurts played very well. 326 yards for him, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. 28-22, you get a road win in the National Football League, Joey, and that's a good thing. I don't care if it's ugly. It doesn't matter. You win on the road. You go to 5-2. You're 3-1 on the road. So the Eagles are very formidable when they're away from the city of brotherly love.
Right. Defensively, they played a pretty good game. They got after Carson Wentz a lot, and Jalen, I can't think of his last name right now, but
Carter?
guess what? Going up the middle, Jalen Carter going up the middle, especially when he's blocked 1-on-1. I mean, the offensive lineman had no chance a couple times. I mean, it was just embarrassing what he could do. Offensively, when Jalen Hurts has time to go down the field and step up in the pocket, he found Smith. They have the potential to be the same team that they were last year. They don't have the same depth. They don't rush the passer as well as they did last year, but potentially offensively, they have the tools to be as good as they were last year. Despite some of the injuries that they have on the offensive line, they're shuffling those guys around, but they can still get the ball out. The problem with the Eagles right now is being able to run the ball, and a lot of that is due to the offensive line, the injuries they have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Saquon's frustrated by it, but he'll never let on because in his mind, as long as we win in football games, I'm okay. And that's what team and that's what leadership looks like. He's not concerned with his numbers right now. He's concerned about winning games because eventually those numbers will come. I mean, they've played 7 games and he's yet to rush for 100 yards, but it's coming. It's coming.
Let's just get the playoffs. We'll worry about stuff like that later. But let's get healthier, or at least try to. Carson Wentz, Brian, as Joey mentioned, struggled. 313 yards is a nice day, but no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He got sacked 2 times. They rushed for 89 yards, but offensively, Philly was scoring touchdowns, and Minnesota was responding with field goals, at least for the first three quarters. And you just can't do that against a very good defense like what the Eagles have. Your thoughts here on this game?
Jalen Hurts played probably his most complete game in a while. It was very, very good. It was explosive plays. The passing game was crisp. Everyone was involved. Devontae Smith had a huge catch. AJ Brown had 2 touchdowns. The only concern I have for them right now is Saquon Barkley had less than 2.5 yards a clip. They're not running the ball very well. I don't know if there's something with the offensive line. I know they still got to get healthy and they still got to get it figured out. And Minnesota's got a good defensive front, but I think Philly brought Brandon Graham back today too, if I'm not mistaken, to try to help with that pass rush, to try to add a little oomph to that defense. So they look good. We kind of talked badly on them. They were lulling, as a team, and with only 2 losses, I think after the win, they're 5-2. We were kind of joking a little bit, saying they might be a bad 4-2 football team or the worst 4-2 football team. But this was a good win on the road against a pretty good Minnesota team who needed to win also. Carson Wentz, I don't know where you go in quarterback. As far as if you're the Vikings next week, I think McCarthy is slated to be back and healthy, but I don't know if you kind of stick with Wentz or what the deal is there. But a good win for the Eagles, and a lot of questions now for the Vikings, especially with who's going to lead the charge next week.
Well, there are a lot of questions that people have, and I got one for both of you guys. Did either of you, we're not quite at the halfway point of the year, expect Carolina to have a winning record and be in second place in the division? They're 4-3 now. Now, granted, it was against the Jets. Bryce Young played well enough to win. He had a touchdown, only threw for 138 yards. They rushed for 125, but they went against an inept, if nothing else, quarterback situation there. Tyrod Taylor got to play. Justin Fields was only 6 of 12, 46 yards before he was replaced. Tyrod threw 2 interceptions. Neither one of them had a touchdown. They rushed for 81 yards. The Jets are a mess. But we'll start, since you've been there, a little bit about it. Let's talk with the Jets' problems first, Joey, and then we'll talk about something pretty good going on in Carolina. At least I think they're pretty happy there right now.
Well, the Jets are void of answers right now. They have a lot of problems, and they have no solutions. I mean, Aaron Glenn benched the quarterback at halftime to brought Tyrod in, and he wasn't able to play a whole lot better. No. And in turn, when teams know you can't throw the ball, they're going to stack the box. So, rushing for 81 yards is actually a good thing because you can't throw the ball. But, they have a lot of problems. I mean, offensively, they have one receiver and, the best corner, I don't think he played. I think he was out on defense. Defensively, despite not giving up a ton of points, they aren't the same defense as they were last year. So you have a new coaching staff. You have a couple of new coordinators who've never been coordinators before, especially the offense coordinator. So now you don't have a lot of answers because you've seen some things when you were an assistant that you haven't seen when you became the guy, and now you don't have answers. So they can't figure out how to dig themselves out of holes right now, and that's problematic from the standpoint their schedule is not going to get any easier, and I don't know how they're going to pick up a win in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Joey, years ago, when Tampa Bay was just flat horrible first 2 years, Coach McKay was asked once, well, what do you think about, the way the schedule is working? And he goes, well, we can't win at home, and we sure as heck can't win on the road. So I'm going to ask the commissioner if we can have all of our games moved to a neutral site. Maybe we can win there. With the Jets, we can't score, and we can't keep anybody from scoring. But we can punt. What do you say if you're the Jets situation right now? You said it. You hit the nail on the head. They got a lot of problems and they don't have any answers for it right now. They played so well in that first game against Pittsburgh that I thought they were going to win it. The fact that they didn't, okay, but they haven't played anything close to that since.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's like every week they have gotten worse each game. So I don't have answers for what they need to do right now because again, you don't have answers on defense how to get better because you're on the field so much, because offensively you're going 3 and out so much, and you have a quarterback that really can't throw the ball vertically.
Yeah.
In turn, you're in shotgun a lot because he should be better at play action, so he's under the center some, but he's in shotgun most of the time, which affects the running game. And they have 2 pretty good backs, which I'm sure a lot of teams are calling about right now before the trade deadline in 2 weeks. So they have some real concerns because I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel for the 2025 season. That may happen in 2026, but I don't see that for 2025. Unless there's a complete overhaul in the offense. It's
a train. It's not a light at the end of the tunnel. Brian, their punt team is really good. They have all pro punt team, I guess, because they can't do anything else. But let's go to the good side. Being a NFC South fan for as long as you have been, what's going on in Carolina? It's not a great win. Okay, they beat a Jets team that is still winless. You better beat them. But doggone, you're 4-3. You get your first road win of the year. You're in second place. I'm not talking playoffs yet, but at least I'm thinking about it, right? Bryce Young throws for 138 yards, no big deal. 1 touchdown, no interceptions. They rush for 125. Good place to be right now in Carolina, isn't it?
Yeah, Bryce Young is slated to miss next week. Andy Dalton's going to get the start, but this team runs the ball well enough. They got a good enough offensive line. And they play defense well enough to where they can kind of lean on that as their bread and butter, and it can win them some football games. Rico Dowdle's been great for them for the last almost month now.
Yeah.
It's just the thing is, it's not an impressive win, but it's a win they're supposed to have, right? Like, you're supposed to beat the Jets. You're supposed to be competitive in these games. You're supposed to, if you want to win a division, if you want to make the playoffs, if you want to make some noise and be a championship contender, these are the games you have to win. They ended up doing so. It wasn't the prettiest win in the world, but they got it done. They did enough on offense to outlast the Jets, which let's be, frank, it's not the hardest thing to do in the world right now, to outlast them on offense. But if you're the Jets right now, man, it's just you hope you're not winless, right? You hope you get at least 1, maybe 2 before the season's over. But it's just like Joey said, like you said, there's not a lot of light at the end of the tunnel for these guys right now.
Jets 0-7. Panthers go to 4-3. They're in second place in the NFC South. The Panthers are, and the Jets are in the bottom of the AFC East. All right, let's go to the next game here. Gosh, what a barn burner this was. Broncos score 33 points in the fourth quarter. Brian, I know that when you saw it, there's parts of this that you don't believe, but as a Georgia State guy, Will Lutz gets the field goal with no time on the clock from 39 yards, whatever it was. Congratulations, Denver. You didn't score in the first, second, or third. You beat a team 33-32, and you scored every one of your points in the fourth quarter. That's the way to win.
I don't think the recipe for success is Bo Nix having to throw the ball 50 times, but when you don't, score a single point until the fourth quarter, you might have to do that. Um, this was an entertaining game because the Giants didn't play all that poorly. They just kind of fell apart, and that's what young teams do. What poorly coached teams will do is they fall apart at the end, right? You get the finish line, you get the wide eyes, especially on the road, and I think a lot of guys were tired too, right? You're playing at that altitude, it gets to you after a while, and I think that's Denver kind of took advantage of that in the fourth quarter. As you said, they got all their points there, so. It was an interesting game. The last 2 or 3 minutes felt like it lasted half an hour, but there was a lot that happened to where it needed to be so. Jackson Dart looks good. If you're the Giants, that's the takeaway from this. The offense looks good. They're only going to get better, especially next year when Malik Neighbors comes back. But this is a tough one to swallow for a young football team. This is going to kind of knock you in the teeth a little bit, at least confidence wise, because this is a game that for all but of 30 seconds, I feel like Giants fans and the team themselves thought they had it. The Broncos find a way to win the game they shouldn't have, which is huge. That's what good teams do, and they stay ahead of the Chiefs in the AFC West, so they're still on top of everybody there.
Boy, it's tough to win in New York, but it's even tougher to lose, especially like that. What are Giant fans thinking, Joey? They're going, what the heck is going on? But as Brian said, this is a young team. Maybe 2 years from now, that never happens. But for right now, it's a tough loss for anyone to swallow. But congratulations. Denver is 5-2, and the Giants fall to 2-5.
Well, there are a couple things that happened in this game. Obviously, they're probably holding open trials for kicker.
Yeah.
Because your kicker missed 2 extra points this game, which probably was a factor. And then they made a couple coaching mistakes, and the most glaring was not having a 3-man rush late in the game against a rookie quarterback, which was disappointing. I mean, you had Abdul Carter and the big fella, I can't think of his name, on the sideline, and Banks, who had 2 or 3 sacks this game, who was playing his ass off, to be quite honest with you. He in that 3-man rushes they had late in the game, and you're trying to figure out why these 2 guys for 2 series, 2 separate series late in the game were on the sideline.
Yeah.
And the Giants have been known and are still known for their front 4. That's what they have. That's the best part of their team right now is their defensive line. And 2 of their most important players were on the sideline. So in my estimation, that was a coaching snafu. You can't have those guys, despite the altitude, the 5280, which I'm sure was prominent all over because they like to show everybody where
on the front of the helmets.
That's right. Whether it's football or basketball, the altitude of 5,280 feet. But those guys have to be in the game. They just have to be in the game. You can't lose a game with 2 of your best defensive linemen on the sideline.
It's a tough loss. 5280 is there for a purpose. When I was in college, Fort Collins is just up the road. We played the University of Hawaii, and we had a kid that was from Hawaii on our team. He goes, "Breathe the mountain air, brother. Breathe that mountain air." And he said it in just a way where it's hilarious every time. And all the Polynesian players of Hawaii, they were cussing him out in Samoan. Oh my gosh! But it's tough to breathe. You just walk around. It's crazy. All right. Let's move on to the next game. Anyways, Broncos a really good position, and one of the reasons they are is because of what a great game that the Colts played against the Chargers. It was close, but 38-24 is the final. 6-1 for Indianapolis. Let's start with you, Joey. Let's give a hand clap and appreciate what the Colts are doing right now. I don't think even the Colts expected to be 6-1 at this point in the year, but they're playing with defense. Their defense can bring it now, but they're doing things offensively. 38 points against the Chargers. Are you kidding me? What a surprise for them.
Hey, Indiana Jones is playing great for them right now. They have probably the best running back in the game right now. At least statistically they have.
Why? Because the best offensive line, right? They've got a great
because they probably have the best offensive line. And as you've heard me say plenty of times, if you win the trenches, you win the game. And 6 weeks in a row, they have won the battle up front, which means they can run the ball. They can do things offensively. Daniel Jones hadn't made critical errors, and they keep coming away with victory. home or away. It doesn't matter because they can run the ball and they're the most physical team on the field.
Yeah, I agree with you. Real quick with Los Angeles, excuse me. They're 4-3. I still think they're a good football team. I think they're a couple injuries away. Their offensive line isn't all healed up yet. Herbert throws for 420 yards, and you had to because you were behind, right? You needed some points. You end up getting 21 in the second half. There's no reason to be embarrassed about this loss, but it was at home, and I think that Harbaugh has one of those. He's got to start doing some things a little bit differently.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, did he throw the ball 55 times, 59 times? Something crazy like that. So
37 for 55, yes.
Yeah, that's just not a recipe for success. You cannot realistically throw the ball that many times and expect to win a football game.
Well, they rushed for 54 yards. They got 54 on 16 carries. But when you're playing from behind, I guess you gotta do things a little bit differently. But oh my goodness, Colts. Are they ferocious, Brian? Are they meaner than everybody else? Or are they just getting away with just doing? But we're making fewer mistakes than the other teams, and that's how we're winning.
They're top to bottom. There's not a weak spot on this team. If you looked at it realistically going in, you thought the weak spot might be wide receiver room, right? Because a lot of guys were like, Michael Pittman had been okay, but Anthony Richardson comes in and the numbers drop. The same with Josh Downs, with Alex Pierce. It just wasn't as good. It wasn't as crisp as you need it to be. But Daniel Jones comes in and we're like, I don't really know, because they're competing for the job in training camp. And I remember when they gave the job to Daniel Jones, a lot of Colts faithful were very upset. They said, we have to go with Anthony Richardson. He's the young guy. He's whatever. I don't think any of those guys are upset anymore. There's a lot of deleted tweets. I think there's a lot of deleted rants on social media. They're like, oh, let me just go ahead and get rid of this real quick. I think they know what they're doing over there in Indianapolis. But it's this Chargers team isn't bad. And they got Khalil Mack. He was healthy again. He was on the field. They were almost at full strength. Joe Walt is still banged up, but they bullied them from the offset. It was just the Colts went right up and down the field the first 3 drives of the game. And you're down 3 scores, and you're looking up at the clock. You're like, there's still 8 minutes left in the second quarter, and we're already down 3 scores. And they're doing this every week. They're doing it to the Chargers. They're doing it to the Jaguars. It doesn't matter. They're doing it to everybody. They're doing it to good defenses, bad defenses. It's just I don't know. It's crazy to think that maybe Daniel Jones was this guy the whole time, because he was efficient as all could be, right? Completion percentage was good. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I don't even know if they turned the football over. Jonathan Taylor, 3 touchdowns. This team is really, really good. And it's just, and we keep saying this every week. And at a certain point, I'm going to have to say, hey, these guys are probably good enough to host maybe all the way through in the AFC as far as the playoffs are concerned. Because it's just, I know the Chiefs are good. I know a lot of these other teams, the AFC, are really, really good. But they're 6-1, and you got a couple of teams that are 2 losses behind them, where I think they may not lose 2 games the rest of the season if they keep playing the way they're playing right now.
And they were one snafu away from being 7-0. You remember the game with the kid fumble dropping the ball going across the goal line?
Yeah, that game was in LA too. They had to go out there twice. They should have won both games in LA. They should be undefeated, right? They should be 7-0 right now. Absolutely, yeah. Well,
we talked about over the past couple of years, but on this show, only the last couple of weeks, how Buffalo, how Denver, or even the Chargers. You talk about Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, Baltimore have been the teams in the AFC. And I'm not going to say out of nowhere. Remember a couple of years ago when they traded for Matt Ryan with the Falcons, they said, all we need, we got a great running game. We got a solid defense. We just need a guy to get the ball to our outside receivers. Matt couldn't do it. And that was just a couple of years ago. That base was there at that time, and now they're a couple of years older, maybe a couple of years hungrier. Some very interesting things taking place there with the Colts in Indianapolis. Any final thoughts before we go to the next one?
They're playing bully ball, and that's how you win football games.
You can.
This is an aggressive sport, and the Colts are playing an aggressive style of football. They're playing bully ball. They're going to run the ball first. They're going to run the ball to win the game. They're going to run the ball to finish the game, and they're going to sprinkle in passing in the middle.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have all-star receivers on the outside. If you have 2 B receivers, I'm going to call them B, number 2 receivers outside, and you have an all-star running back and you have an all-star offensive line, you're going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah.
Tyler Ward is
Go ahead.
my
Go
sneaky
ahead.
pick maybe for offensive rookie of the year. He's been they don't like Joey said, you don't need you can have B tier receivers, but he's for real at tight end. He's very, very good, and he's the staple of what they're doing in the passing game right now, and he's spectacular.
Yeah. Well, Quentin Nelson is one of those guys that's going to hit you even after the echo of the whistle. Excuse me. Help me, guys. I think Detroit has done it. Buffalo used to do it. There's another team that would bring two big tackles in when it'd be third down situations. If you've got a blocking tight end, try to stop us. Philadelphia has been doing it forever with the push and all that kind of stuff, but I think the Colts have said we're here too. Come try to take it from us. So congratulations, the Colts are 6-1. Next game, gosh, and what historically has been one of the great matchups of all time. This one got a little bit ugly if you're a Commanders fan. 44-22 is the final. 3-1 is where Dallas is right now. 3-4. Gosh, I don't think the Commanders lost a total of 4 games last year, and now they're not even at the halfway point. Injuries. Obviously, my quarterback situation. They've got to do another MRI with Jaden Daniels. Dan Quinn says he's going to be fine, but Dan's going to say that anyways. Brian, I'll start with you. What's going on in Washington?
Well, I think at a certain point, you're going to have to kind of make business decisions if you're Jaden Daniels, right? Don't take as many hits. Because listen, he's not the biggest guy in the world, right? And he was able to run away from a lot of these guys in college, but it's the talent is faster. You got guys who are able to go sideline to sideline. You got linebackers that can chase you down now. He's taking a lot of hits, especially if he's banged up. Now the way it is, like he's got the knee issue already. It's his hamstring. It's one of those things that could linger all season, right? So he's got to stay on the field. He's got to stay healthy. And the best ability is availability, right? And, hey, we need our star quarterback on the field to have a chance because now I'll give the Dallas defense a lot of credit. We've dogged them all season, but they showed up in this one. I know Deebo Samuel didn't play. Terry McLaurin didn't play, but the Cowboys still came up. They stopped the run. They played really, really well, and they were able to play ahead of Washington for the majority of this game. But, if you're the Commanders, it's kind of shocking now, right? Because you were waiting for Jade to come back to kind of get back in the division, and this was a huge opportunity to do so against the divisional opponent, and it wasn't particularly close. Dallas's offense is for real. Dak Prescott's having maybe the best year of his career so far. CeeDee Lamb comes back. He's distributed. He catches a long touchdown. If you're the Commanders right now,
receptions, 110 yards, a touchdown for him. Thank you, CD. I know every Cowboy fan, and there are millions of them out there. They're going, gosh, thank you. You had 27 points in the first half. Dak really wanted, when they made the trade and they got Parsons and did the thing with, you don't believe him, but when Jerry Jones said, we're going to have a really good team, he wasn't exactly right, but he sure wasn't wrong. 3-1 is an okay place to be right now if you're a Cowboy.
Yeah, it's not bad, but you'd like to have Micah Parsons there too, right? You'd like to have number 11, but I think the idea was they got to pay their cornerbacks, they got to pay everybody else. That's why. But
you don't want the cancer in the locker room, and I think it got to the point where everybody around knew Micah's going to be an issue, and maybe not, but that was my thought. Joey, let me go to you real quick before we take too long on this one. But the Cowboys 3-1. What impresses you here about what Dallas is doing right now?
Well, I'm not sold on the Cowboys defense yet. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm still a ways away from that because they played a hampered and injured Washington with a quarterback that was ailing coming in, and now and their top 3 receivers out. So I'm not giving them credit yet. What I will say about the Cowboys is they jumped on Washington offensively and turned Washington into a one-dimensional team. So Washington, they weren't going to be able to run the ball great because they were behind so big early in the game. Like you said, Dallas has scored 27 points by the half, and it looked easy. Yeah. It really did look easy. Dak, I will agree, is playing MVP caliber football, maybe the best of his career at this point. And CD with George Pickens, that's a great tandem. They're able to do a lot of things offensively, but when they play against real football teams, can they stop anybody defensively? And I'm not sure that they can. They get credit for this because they jumped out so far ahead of Washington, and then once the quarterback got hurt again. And I'm gonna say this. This is a man's league, and he's physically he's not built to last, and that has to change. That really has to change. I mean, 1 week is a hamstring, then it's a knee. They need to sit him until he can get completely healthy. And I know that's hard to say because he's your franchise quarterback, and rightfully so. He's that good of a football player, but he can't play injured and expect Washington to be what they were last year. He's got to be completely healthy.
Yeah, for those that may not know exactly, this is my interpretation of what you were saying there. He's 6'5", he's 205 pounds. He's a skinny dude. In college, I remember his senior year, he was able to rush and get out of the pocket and avoid pressure and get 40 yards. He learned how to do that. He was the leading rusher. He had over 200 yards on the ground against Florida his senior year, or his last year at LSU. So he knows in the back of his mind, I can do that. But just like RG3 tried to do it, hey, I can do this. I got this. I did it at Baylor. And then you get to Washington, and what happens? Oh, my back. Oh, my legs. My knees are bothering me. I'm taking hits, and these are guys that want to hit you. I think Jaden's going to need to learn to throw the ball away, take a lower completion percentage, but keep the team on the field and keep himself on the field as well. Is there any truth to what I'm saying there, Joey, at least in your perspective of what I'm trying to analyze?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he'll get better at it. I mean, there are he needs to become a scrambler rather than a runner. We do have some quarterbacks right now who are runners in the league, and that's fine. But the scramblers, like, I'll give you a perfect example. Patrick Mahomes is a scrambler. Now, up until last week, he was a leading rusher on the team. Yeah. But that's not what he does. He'll rush when he has to, but he's always looking to throw the ball. And that's what the great quarterbacks do. He has to be a scrambler and not a runner of the football. And get rid of the ball when you have to.
Baker Mayfield, the same situation. I got to stay behind the line of scrimmage and run around and be like Fran Tarkenton to keep the play alive. But if you're going to drop the linebackers 20 yards, I'll take 10. I'll take 12 yards and slide. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, interesting situation now where the Commanders now with a losing record, they fall to 3-4, and the Cowboys are at least at 500 at 3-3-1. Remember that one tie that they had was against Packers. And oddly enough, the next game that we're going to talk about, Green Bay holds on in Arizona. Cardinals are another one of those teams, guys, like the Saints. They don't know they're bad. They're going to play hard and give you everything they got all the way to the end. Packers score 14 points in the fourth quarter. Arizona responds with 3. The difference in the game was 4. So congratulations to the Packers for being able to get a road win. We'll start with you, Brian. Your thoughts here about Arizona and Green Bay.
Well, Arizona's in every single game they play. They're losing by 1 score, but the problem is they're losing every week, right? They're right there. It's just they can't. I mean, they lose basically at the buzzer where last week Brissett, they were playing with the Colts. They could have beat Indianapolis last week. And Brissett throws up a prayer for Trey McBride. He'll tell you he got held. The referee said no. Everybody in Indianapolis will tell you no, but they were right there with them. It was kind of the same scenario this week at Green Bay. They were right there with them the whole time. And it's just it's tough sledding because this team you could flip their win-loss record right now very easily if you watch them play. But, I have to say the passing game has looked really, really good since Kyler Murray has been injured, which is concerning for me if you're the Cardinals. Because I think, if you're Marvin Harrison Jr., if you're Trey McBride, you might want Jacoby Brissett to be the guy at least a little bit longer. But, if you're the Packers, this is a tough game to win. This is a dogfight. They're able to scrape this one out. Tucker Kraft, who's maybe one of the best tight ends in the NFL, probably 2 or 3 right now in my book. He scores again. He's been tremendous. They run the ball well with Josh Jacobs. He was questionable coming in. Jordan Love doesn't do a ton, but he does enough to win the game. And Packers are going to be formidable. They're a team that a lot of people have slated. I think they have a good chance to play in February, but they get a tough win in Arizona.
Yeah, very impressive. You mentioned a couple things about Arizona. One completion late when you need it, but you don't get it. But am I semi-accurate with what I'm saying, Joey, in terms of they're going to fight? Much like what the Saints are, even though they're 2-5, they're going to beat you up. They're going to hit you hard, and you're going to know you're in a football game when you're in Arizona.
Oh, absolutely. However, at the end of the season, if they're 4-13, nobody will care if all these games were close games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's all about winning football games. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to find a way to finish the deal. And they've been in all of them, but they haven't been able to finish many of them. And again, Green Bay, I like to be a lot more excited by Green Bay, but again, they played at a level of competition, and I don't know how far they'll go in the playoffs because of that. Now, maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe Jordan Love will play like the potential that he has. He just hasn't gotten there yet. Now, Michael had 3 sacks the other day, and which was amazing. So defensively, they'll always be able to keep it fairly close. But offensively, they just have not been the explosive team consistently that you like to see for a team that's really going to be there at the end. So I'm not saying they can't do it. They just have not been able to do it yet. Again, we're 7 games in. There's still a lot of work to be done. So I won't say that they can't do it. They just haven't done it consistently at this point yet.
Yeah. Well, speaking of consistency, you're sure not going to see that in Atlanta. I mean, you're going to win one and lose one, and then lose one and win one. That's consistent. But 20-10 is the final there. San Francisco gets a much-needed win. They're 5-2. It wasn't a great win for them. Mac Jones had 152 yards, no touchdowns. He had 1 interception, but they ran for 174. And against a Falcon offense that was really inept for most of the game. Brian, we'll start with you. Your thoughts here about San Francisco's doubling up on Atlanta 20-10. They're 5-2, as I mentioned. The Falcons fall to 3-3.
I mean, Atlanta lost to Christian McCaffrey. That's really what it was. They ran the ball really, really well. San Francisco did. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They chewed up time of possession. It felt like they had the ball forever. Couple mistakes made by the Falcons. The fumble by Penix wasn't, that's tough to overcome. In a game where scoring's at a premium, when you're spotting good field position and you're having to punt deep in your own territory and you're giving it back to the home team constantly, it's very, very difficult to win that game. If you're San Francisco, George Kittle didn't have a reception this game. He came back, he was healthy, but he was a non-factor. The passing game really was a non-factor as a whole, but you end up getting a win where they grind it out. If I'm Atlanta right now, I need to see more from Zach Robinson's offense, and I need to see more from Michael Penix, because I was told all offseason they got all this talent, they got all these young players, which they do, but yeah, you can't score 10 points in a week 7 game on the road and expect to beat anybody. And that's what they did. This is a team that looked phenomenal the week before against a very good Buffalo team. And it's Jekyll and Hyde with these guys. It's just back and forth. And you got to have some slate of consistency. You got to win, more than 1 game in a row to be able to, be a winning football team and be a playoff team, which is what they haven't done in almost 9 years now.
Yeah. Brian, before I go to Joey real quick, the thing that impressed me most about Michael Penix was his bubble screen, take a snap, not even get the laces, zing it out to the right side, because he's a left-handed quarterback, for him to throw to his right and be able to get the ball in the hands of the receiver as quick as he can with pinpoint accuracy, and having the little guy, instead of 3 feet in between the nearest defender, because the ball gets to him so quickly, he's got 5 to 6 or 7 feet of gap, and that little receiver, instead of getting 2 yards, would get 6. And you can do anything on 2nd and 4, right, from a play calling standpoint. I thought that was Michael's pièce de résistance. It was the thing that he did that made him so good, in my opinion. Zing the ball out there, get it in a hurry. But that seems to be all he's capable of doing right now. He's missing guys. He's not throwing anybody open, in my opinion. And is this just something a year from now that we're going to laugh that I said this? Or, I'm just not seeing his accuracy down the field, stretching the field, short routes, sure, but if it's 3rd and 9, I don't want a 5-yard completion and punt.
Yeah, I think the issue too is it's not the arm strength, it's the accuracy, right? He had Mooney downfield a couple times, which Darnell Mooney hasn't been healthy all season, so to have him back and take the top off the defense kind of guy, he missed him a couple times. He was open and he couldn't find him, but if you go back and you watch week 1, the tape against the Bucs was fantastic. That might be the best game he's played as a pro. But since then, with the exception of the Buffalo game, it's kind of gone in the opposite direction every single week. They beat up on Minnesota, but they did a lot of what San Francisco just did to them. They ran the ball a lot, right? It was on the ground. They chewed up time of possession. They kept the ball out of the hands of the other team. And that's just, sometimes that's what you got to do to win. But if I'm the Falcons, I need to see more from Penix. I need to see more on tape. I'm seeing highlights every week from Bo Nix and from Jackson Dart and from Jaden Daniels when he's healthy. I need to start seeing some of that. I know it's only been 9 starts, but we're getting into 10 and 11, and at a certain point, you got to take that next step.
When it's 4th and 3, Joey, and you don't run it, and you try to go over the top, and it's incomplete, you just your defense has to win it for you, and that's just a hard recipe there. What were your thoughts here about San Francisco first, getting a nice win to rebound and to keep pace with the rest of the division, and then give me your thoughts secondly on what you thought about Atlanta?
Well, the Niners, they took the personality of their coach again. I'm going to say that. It doesn't matter who lines up, whether the mailman, the paper boy, it doesn't matter who lines up on defense, they play. The kid that came in and took the linebacker spot who got hurt, he played a great game, okay? McCaffrey had over 200 yards total offense. They were able to run the ball. They were able to throw it to him out of the backfield. So San Francisco just continues to find ways to win football games. They don't let injuries stop their progress, which is a great thing. Atlanta is a different pill to swallow from the standpoint of, I don't want to compare quarterbacks, and it's always going to be a comparison. I don't want to compare him to another rookie. What I want to do, if I'm the Falcons, I want to find out what he does best. And I'm not sure they know or they found out what he does best. I would think, given the offense he ran at the University of Washington, throwing the deep ball is one of the things that he does back. Now he's a thrower a little bit like Michael Vick from the standpoint he's a wrist thrower. He doesn't have to wind up all the way here and let it go. The great throw, the Michael Vicks, the Aaron Rodgers, they're wrist throwers. They can throw the ball a mile just by throwing it like this. They don't have to wind up and do it. Now that being said, he should be really good at getting the ball out of his hand quick. On the short to intermediate passes, which I didn't see them do a lot of. They didn't work a lot in between the hashes. A lot of their passes have been out, on the outside, which they have to figure out from a passing standpoint what Michael Penix does best and kind of organize their offense accordingly. And I'm not sure they've done that yet. I mean, obviously you have a great running back there, and you got to get him the ball give him as many opportunities as possible, whether it be receiving the ball, running the ball at the backfield, on screens, whatever you need to do. But they really have to get consistency out of the quarterback position.
Yeah, I agree with you. Every team needs to find that one guy that's going to be the leader, and usually it's the quarterback, obviously, for the offensive side of the ball. And they're still struggling with that. Well, there's a look at this past week that we had, week 7. Guys, we'll just do real quick. American League Conference in the East, it's the Patriots at 5-2, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets. Jets are 0-7. In the AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers still in first place at 4-2. Cincinnati moves up to 3-4 there in second. Cleveland and Baltimore bringing up the rear there. Indianapolis Colts 6-1 have a 2-game lead over Jacksonville, who's 4-3. Houston is 2-3. Tennessee Titans are 1-6. Denver is 5-2. They are in first place. The LA Chargers are not able to keep pace. They and Kansas City are 4-3, so they're really tied for second. And the Raiders are 2-5. Before we go to the NFC, give me your thoughts here, Joey. What has surprised you here almost halfway into the season from the AFC perspective?
Colts, Colts, the Colts. Yeah. They are for real. We need to stop sleeping on the Colts. Everybody does, because they're a physical football team, both offensively and defensively, and they're going to be a tough out as long as they keep Daniel Jones from making the big mistakes. But I say Daniel Jones, but that's with any quarterback, especially when you can run the ball and you're physical on both the offensive and defensive line. So the Colts have been the biggest surprise without question.
Patriots, Steelers, Colts, and Broncos are the leaders. Brian, your thoughts here on the AFC?
The Ravens being as bad as they've been, because you think even with Lamar going out, you think they got enough talent on the roster to compete, but it's a lot of non-competitive football. The defense has been really, really bad, and I know we've said it, and everyone's saying it, like, hey, Lamar's back this week, so they got a chance to turn it around, but you got to stop somebody on defense too, right? At some point, someone's got to light a fire under that defense, so they're going to have to figure out really quickly if they want to turn it around.
Is Harbaugh in trouble, Joey?
I don't think so. They've
either.
had so many injuries. I mean, if he's in trouble, he'll have a line of people trying to get him for sure. But defensively, that's been the biggest shot. I mean, offensively, things happen, but it's hard to replace Lamar if he goes down, because their whole offense is set up by his skill set.
Yeah,
but
it's a different play call if he's not in there, isn't it?
Correct.
You got to call different plays with any backup quarterback.
It really is. But defensively has been the biggest surprise, that they have been so inept defensively.
Yeah. I think John's earned this season. Mm-hmm. A bunch of injuries. You just mentioned a short while ago how Kyle Shanahan, for example, can get through that plug and play. You take the milkman, you take the guy at Foot Locker, you bring him in and you put him on the field and they play hard for you. Mm-hmm. All right, let's look at the NFC. Philadelphia 5-2, Cowboys 3-1, Washington 3-4, New York Giants at 2-5. In the North, it's Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota. For the first time in years, Chicago is not in last place in the division. In the South, it's Tampa Bay at 5-2, Carolina at 4-3, Atlanta and New Orleans, and then San Francisco at 5-2, Los Angeles Rams at 5-2. Seattle is ahead right now. It's 17-6 in the third quarter of that Monday night game. So you could still have, at the end of today, still have three teams that are tied with the 5-2 record. Joey, thoughts here on the NFC?
No, the NFC, it's a little tougher. I mean, I'm still going to pick the Eagles for now, but I really like both Seattle and the Rams at the end of the day. And I like what Tampa might be able to do at the end of the day. So I think that division is a little more up in the air than what the AFC is. But from a talent perspective, it's hard to go against what the Eagles can be. You just haven't seen it consistently this year so far.
I'm going to call you out a little bit because you mentioned San Francisco earlier, and in that same division, you mentioned the Rams and Seattle, but not San Francisco. So give me a little perspective.
Well, for the last 3 weeks, I've talked about the Rams being the best team in that division. So I can't go away from what I think about the Rams. Now, I like what San Francisco has done lately. But if I'm betting at the end of the day between San Francisco and the Rams, I'm probably going to take the Rams, because I think when everybody's healthy, if we have your 11 versus my 11 and we're all starting, then I'm going to take Matthew Stafford over Purdy.
Okay. The reason I'm kind of laughing is because if the Rams play anywhere, it's going to be a road game, even if it's at SoFi, because the 49ers.
Exactly. You're right.
The 49er fans travel so well, especially in LA. It's amazing. All right, Brian, your thoughts, NFC.
The most surprising team, at least over the last month, is the Panthers, right? To come out of nowhere. And with Tampa losing tonight, they're 5-2, but they got Carolina breathing right down their neck right now. It's I think this division is kind of wide open. If the Falcons ever figure it out, they could join the mix too. But between them and then I think, I got to go, man, probably Detroit, I would say, because you lose your offensive coordinator, you lose your defensive coordinator. They got 6 guys injured in the secondary tonight, and they look like they didn't miss a beat. Team looks fantastic. They look like a team that promoted within, and it worked. And that's exactly what's happened. The Lions they're going to be really formidable. They're going to be a tough out for anybody if they can find their way in the playoffs.
Well, I know you guys didn't ask, but I'll say my surprise in the NFC would be Chicago right now. For one reason only. We may not talk about them ever again, but at least I can talk about them right now. They're a game out of first place when you stop to think about it. For that organization to catch up as quickly as they have, and there's still 100 problems that they still need to figure out, but they're starting to learn to win the close game that they lost last year. And that's the part about me that I'm if I'm a Bears fan, I'm excited for that. It's been a while since they've had that type of energy, but the NFC West and the logjam there, I thought Arizona would play a little bit better, but to have 4 teams at 5-2, that I think it's a little too much to ask for, so I'll just settle for 3. All right. Yeah. Final thoughts, Joey, before we head out here and put a button on week 7.
Coaching matters. You just talked about Chicago. We just talked about the 49ers. We've talked about Detroit. We've talked about Miami. Coaching matters. Okay. Leadership matters. And all those teams that we've talked about who have improved. Coaching matters, and guess what? Shane Steichen must be a pretty good coach for Indianapolis too, because guess what? The 6-1, and things have seemingly turned the corner there. So coaching matters.
Yeah, it sure does. Brian, final thoughts from you?
Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones, they got a chance to take home some serious hardware by the end of the season. Maybe not MVP for Daniel Jones because a lot of people playing really well, but maybe comeback player of the year. I think I right now I don't see how you don't give coach of the year to anybody but Shane Steichen right now, just with what he's done. Maybe Ben Johnson's in the mix, but it's going to be tough for any of the voters to pick against him. Colts are, like Joey said, Colts are for real.
Well, let's see if we're still saying that 5, 6, 9 weeks from now as the season progresses. But if you're 6-1, you may not win it, but you're sure putting yourself in place to be able to do so. If you were 1-6, it'd be the exact opposite. So very interesting week, and we appreciate everybody being a part of it and watching the show and being along here with 100 Yards of Football. So for Joey Clinkscales, but for Brian LeBel, myself, Harper LeBel, we appreciate you being a part of the show. This has been the NFL Wrap-Up. We'll see you again next week. We hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.